Hey everybody, Max Master, back from Marvel Heroes, going back into the Omega system, and we're going to have Radioactive Origins up. And this is a nice little tree, and we'll start over here with the Heartbeat, and excuse me. Gain 12 critical hit and brutal strike rating for 5 seconds when you hit with a melee power. That's kind of cool. Lyra, when you hit with a melee power, your Gamma Sight gives you 5% chance to enter a calm trance state for 10 seconds, increasing your critical hit rating and critical damage by 30, and reducing the cost of melee powers by 1% with a 10-second cooldown. That's pretty cool too. That's not bad, right? Can't hurt there. For 40 points. That probably goes up. A-Bomb. I like A-Bomb. 5% chance when you hit with a melee power to activate Chameleon mode, turning invisible and gaining 60 damage rating versus unaware targets for 3 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. That's alright. When I say I like A-Bomb, I like the character. Hulk, while you're below 50% health, you become angry, gaining +1 strength and +1 brutal strike damage. Ugh, -1 intellect. I don't know how great that is. Red Hulk. When you are below 50% health, emit a superheated gamma blast around you every 5 seconds, dealing 1800 damage to enemies caught within the blast, +1 intelligence. Red Hulk's better than Green Hulk, I think, here. Mr. Fantastic. He's coming up. You and your allies gain 60 defense rating for 5 seconds when you hit an enemy with a power. Human Torch. You and your allies gain 1% bonus damage to energy powers for 5 seconds when you hit with a power. That's pretty good. The Thing. You and your allies gain 1% bonus damage to physical powers for 5 seconds when you hit with a power. That's pretty good too. Franklin Richards. You and your allies gain 24 crit rating for 5 seconds when you hit an enemy. That's good. Invisible Woman. You and your allies gain 1% bonus damage to mental powers for 5 seconds when you hit an enemy with a power. That's interesting. I wonder why that's Invisible Woman. Is that just because it's the Fantastic Four? Because she does energy damage. Spider-Man. 30 dodge rating for 10 seconds when you pick up an orb. That kind of sucks. Wonder Man. 1 energy for 10 seconds when you pick up an orb. 1 energy ain't a joke. Daredevil. Gain 30 crit rating and 30 damage rating for your melee powers for 10 seconds when you pick up an orb with a 1-second cooldown. That sucks. Captain Marvel. 1% chance to create a spirit orb when you hit an enemy with a power. That's pretty good, especially if we're going to go with something that picks up orbs. Radioactive Man. When you deal damage, you have a 5% chance to drop a radiation orb. Picking up the radiation orb grants you 1% bonus base damage rating for 5 seconds on a 10-second cooldown. That's even better. Alright, that's Radioactive Origins. What do we got next? Nanotechnology. Aha! The second tree with XP. Microsurgery Experimental Robotics. Lots of XP. If you actually want to maximize your XP gain and not do what I just did, which is the lazy way, you're going to spend out your points between the three XP
like
trees
someone who enjoys waiting?
as they become most beneficial and cheapest to buy. So in other words, the most benefit to plus XP for the least amount of Omega points spent. Probably means you won't actually buy... Oops, wrong one. Precognition right away until you start spending more than... because I think it's like 3 points for 1 XP, something like that. Until you start spending more than that on the other trees. So you're going to want to divvy yourself out. And it's really going to be between Microsurgery Experimental Robotics and Clear Sentience until about halfway through those trees, and then sooner or later, or around halfway, Precognition will start coming in as something to put points into. if you want to do it the actual point for point way. If you want to be lazy, you pick one, you buy it all the way up. You pick another one, you buy it all the way up, and you do it that way. Yes, I was lazy while I was leveling and making all those videos. So, Extremis healing, plus 60 health regeneration per minute. That's not bad at 50 points. I wonder how high that can actually go. It doesn't tell me a limit. Extremis electricity. Your melee attacks deal an additional 61 energy damage when you hit. Not bad for all melees. Extremis reflexes. 5% chance to gain 60 dodge rating and 1% attack speed for 5 seconds when you're attacked. 5-second cooldown. Basically, you have it up all the time. Extremis fire. 5% chance to set the ground ablaze, dealing 702 energy damage over 5 seconds when you hit on a 5-second cooldown. That won't be around all the time. Extremis speed. 1% move speed, 1% attack speed. Extremis stamina. 1% spirit cost reduction to melee powers. That can be good for some people. Extremis strength. 1% damage with thrown environmental objects, 1% damage with melee powers. Extremis durability. 1% base physical defense, 1% base energy defense. And Mark 30 Extremis armor. Yes, you can have Iron Man. 1% chance to summon a nano-controlled Mark 30 Extremis armor suit to assist you for 30 seconds when you hit on a 1-minute cooldown. You also get 1 durability, 1 strength, 1 energy. That's 600 points. That's actually kind of cool. Nano Sentinels, 1% chance to weaken the enemy, causing them to deal minus 10% damage for 5 seconds and dealing 702 energy damage over 5 seconds when you hit. That's on a 5-second cooldown. Nano Mines, 1% chance to render an enemy vulnerable, causing them to take plus 10% damage for 5 seconds, dealing 7,000 mental damage over 5 seconds when you hit. I kind of like that a little better. Spin Tech, plus 60 damage rating versus bosses. I like that. When you're hit by a physical, energy, or mental attack, you have a 1% chance to adapt your defenses and gain 1% reduced damage to that type for 5 seconds. Sounds pretty good, but a 1% chance is a 1% chance. So, going for nanotechnology to the last one, which is human augmentation, I believe, right? Right. Here it is. Now as we go around the board, adamantium laced skin, plus 30 physical defense. Elixir of immortality, 1% base health. When you're defeated, instead, you'll revive with 100% health on a 30-minute cooldown. That's actually not bad. 1% base health to boot. That's pretty good. Cybernetic claws. Minus 1% damage rating, plus 2 crit damage. I don't like that at all. Alien Symbiote. When you pick up a health orb, instead of healing you, you gain 1% brutal strike chance and damage for 20 seconds. Don't like that. Goblin formula. Plus 1 fighting. 1% chance when you hit with a power to lose 1% of your total spirit and then go temporarily maniacally insane for 10 seconds, gaining plus 1 attack speed, plus 1 brutal strike chance, plus 1 brutal strike damage, and plus 1 strength, and losing 1% dodge chance. That one's actually not too terrible, if you don't mind going maniacally insane. Exotech Op Cybernetic Body Upgrades. Plus 24 damage rating on physical attacks, plus 24 physical defense. Deathlock Program. Plus 12 damage rating on physical attacks. Reaver Program. 1% extra damage on physical attacks. That's even better. Super Soldier Serum. Plus 1 strength. Red, white, and blue. When you pick up a Spirit Orb, gain 1% maximum health for 10 seconds. When you pick up an Experience Orb, gain 1 spirit. When you pick up a Health Orb, gain 1% bonus attack and movement speed for 30 seconds. 1 spirit? Kick. When you pick up a Health Orb, gain plus 1 durability, strength, fighting, speed, energy, and intellect for 5 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. Huh. That's pretty interesting. Compound XO7. When you drop below 50% health, gain 60 health per second for 5 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. That's not too good for 100 points. Forever Compound. Plus 60 health regeneration per minute. That's not terrible for 5, but I would imagine you can point that out. Yep, you can point that out. But it doesn't tell me how high. Serum SO2. Plus 60 health, you take 1% less damage from enemy poison powers. Not too many of those. I don't know if I really care about that. Mutant Growth Hormone. -1 dodge rating, -1 crit rating, -1 spirit for +1 defense, +1 damage rating, +1 60 health regeneration per minute. I have to buy some weird things to get to it. But that's actually pretty good. I don't know if I like that -1 crit rating, but one crit rating doesn't hurt too much. Hide Formula. 1% chance when you hit with a melee power to grow by 5% and fly into a brutal rage for 10 seconds, gaining 3% brutal strike chance, but losing 1% critical strike chance. Don't like that at all. Weapon X. +1 critical rating for melee powers, +1 physical defense, +1 brutal strike rating for melee powers. That's pretty good. 5% chance when struck to deal 1200 damage back over 5 seconds, 10-second cooldown, and back to adamantium lace skin. So that's it. That's the Omega system. It's actually not as complicated. I'll probably take the time out to try to tie them together, but it took a while to write it all down. You know, you had to take a lot of time out of gameplay. I think what I really want to do is, instead of just having it set up, because right now I have everything divided by offense, defense, combined stats, regeneration, and pets. I really want to break it out maybe like by energy, damage, you know, flat damage, energy damage, mental damage, pet damage, you know, character type bases, you know, maybe for plus energy, plus mental, plus melee, plus range, and then you can mix and match, so that way if you're, say, melee energy, you can look at those two bids and go with those, you know what I mean? I think that'd be a better format. Because there's so much and it's so broken up, they started trying to put some of these things together. As you can see, like the yellow's trying to get into the melee, and the green was trying to get it, or was it the green, or maybe it was the blue, was trying to get into the health buffs and everything, but they really broke off, and this was kind of mixed into the range when we got into the purple. They really should have stuck with the gut that they started getting right around here and saying, wow, we really need to separate these out by pet, by mental, by energy, by physical, by melee. That would have been a much smarter route. And hopefully they'll clean it up and put it all together that way for us and come up with a better system. But right now it's what we got, and it's better than nothing. And it's a lot better than some of the other Paragon systems out there. And it's a lot longer to get to, so, you know, maybe not necessarily as good, but a lot more benefits to it once you get them. So, hope it helps. Hope you guys enjoy.
Am I just here to look
talk
good?
to everybody real soon with Storm. Should be coming up real soon, tomorrow, or today.